opinion, what is the number one driver of mental disorders today that is directly related to how we're living in our modern age?
I think the biggest problem is that mental disorders are actually metabolic disorders of the brain. And as most people know, mental disorders are an escalating crisis throughout the world. They are now the leading cause of disability. And it is not a coincidence that as the rates of obesity and diabetes are skyrocketing, so too are the rates of mental disorders, all the way from anxiety to depression to bipolar disorder and even autism.
So, the same things, if I'm understanding correctly, that are making us fatter and sicker as a society are also driving mental disorders?
Absolutely.
So, talk about metabolism. What is its role when it comes to mental disorders? Give us a little bit of a background.
You know, a lot of people have a simplistic view of metabolism, and I don't. So a lot of people think about metabolism as burning calories, and it relates to how much people weigh. So if you have a high metabolism, you're going to be skinny no matter how much you eat, and if you have a low metabolism, you're probably going to be fat no matter how little you eat. And there's no doubt that metabolism relates to burning calories and to how much we weigh, but metabolism is much, much more than that. In many ways, metabolism is fundamental to the definition of living organisms. So, in a way, it's the process that all living organisms use to take food and convert it into energy or building blocks that we use to maintain or grow cells. And it's also the management of waste products. And so, in this sense, you know, it's actually obvious that mental disorders are related to metabolism because metabolism has a direct influence on the function and even the structure of all living cells, and that includes brain cells and neurons. And so if there are metabolic problems, there will be problems in the way the brain functions.
So, I think a good way to understand this is to talk a little bit about a patient that found his way to you and came to you initially for weight loss and his weight loss journey. And talk to us about who this patient was and what you put him through and the unintended positive consequences that happened from working with this patient.
Yeah. So this is a real patient. I'm going to call him Tom. But Tom had actually been a patient of mine for over 8 years at this point. He had schizoaffective disorder. He was 33 years old. And schizoaffective disorder is a cross between schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. He had daily hallucinations and delusions, and he was really tormented by his illness. He was essentially a hermit. He was terrified to go out in public because he was convinced everybody was out to get him, that people could read his thoughts, people were trying to hurt him. There were these technologies that could broadcast his thoughts to everybody in the world. And this man had tried 17 different medications, but none of them stopped his symptoms. They did cause him to gain a lot of weight. And so weighing 340 pounds, he asked for my help to lose weight. He had already tried several other weight loss methods without success. And so we decided to try the ketogenic diet. Within 2 weeks, not only did he start losing weight, but I began to notice a remarkable antidepressant effect in him. He started making better eye contact, he was talking more, was just a lot more positive. But he was still psychotic. He was still having hallucinations and delusions. The most shocking thing to me was that at about 6 to 8 weeks into it, he spontaneously reported that his long-standing, chronic, decade-long hallucinations were going away, and that his paranoid delusions were also going away. He began to realize they weren't true and probably never had been. This man went on to lose 160 pounds now and has kept it off to this day. But he was able to do things he hadn't been able to do since the time of his diagnosis. He was able to complete a certificate program, go out in public without being terrified and paranoid. He was able to perform improv in front of a live audience. Now, today, he actually teaches karate classes. he was able to do things that he had never been able to do, regardless of all of the treatments that he had tried in psychiatry. And that completely upended everything that I knew as a psychiatrist.